Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today is day 9 of PHP in DDCDP23, and we did some introduction to object-oriented programming in PHP in the first part, and this is going to be the second part of OOP in PHP. So today we will study what is type hinting, type properties, named arguments, getters and setters, and visibility. We touched visibility in the first lecture as well, and we will continue with some parts of it. Then what are constructor promoted properties, which is new in PHP 8 and onwards. Then what is exceptional handling and different exception handling techniques we will study. Singleton is a design pattern. Design pattern means a methodology in coding. So we will use the database connection class to know what singleton is. We will also study what late static binding is. It is also known as factory method. We will also study final keyword. Why do we use it? Then some generic object oriented principles like single responsibility principle. What actually is composition, dependency injection. We had to study it in the last lecture, but we didn't have time, so we will be studying this. It is also known as DI. And then we will have entity classes to be used with PDO, some introduction to it. So hopefully all of these will be covered today. So let's start. In the last lecture, if you remember, we had used or introduced auto loading via composer. Okay, so we already have that setup, and the advantage of it is that we can now download anything we need. For example, any packages from Packagist or some third party locations. So that's what we are going to do. You have been using dump or print_r normally for arrays and variables. So to have some prettier output of variables for dumping purposes, there is a library, and if I Google it, Symfony var-dumper. So that's how we are going to use install this. Composer require --dev means this is going to be used only for our development purpose. We are not going to ship because we don't need to dump variables in our production environment, so that's why we will only use it in development purposes. And then the name of the vendor and the library. So var-dumper, this is good, something we can now use. I will just run this in the command prompt. Prefix by DDEV because we are using DDEV. If you are on your own operating system, you don't need this. And composer require --dev Symfony var-dumper. So basically it will install, download it. And if I go to the vendor directory now, so you can see Symfony, and then it has the var-dumper. It also has downloaded this stuff, so maybe this var-dumper depends upon polyfill MB string also. And that's the beauty of these composer commands. If any relevant or related packages are needed, those will be automatically downloaded for you by that particular command. And if we come to composer.json, so you can see now there is required -dev, and here the var-dumper has been mentioned. So what this library does is we can now use the dump method in any of our files. So for example, if I create a new file, we'll call it test dumping.php, and here I will just create an array, or maybe an array of arrays, okay, nested array. So for example, students is equal to an array like this, and then each array will be having records separate. Each array will have another array like this, and then it will have name, and marks, $200, and we will just copy and paste some of them. Okay, so we have defined an array of 3 subarrays. So this is known as a nested array, right? So if I need to dump it, previously we would use something like print underscore r. That would not be that appealing. But now if I just use dump and the students array, if I just open test dumping.php, okay, so that's a good error we have. Why are we getting this error? Exactly, because we have not included the autoloader. So let us quickly copy it from one of the files, this one. Or it's not hard writing, so require underscore once and it is vendor/autoload. It will work this way as well because we are already in the root. Okay, so if I just refresh it, now you can see we have a prettier and it can help you learn some data structures as well. So for example, this shows array 3. What does this mean? This is an array and it has 3 elements. Okay, if for example I add one more key to this like this, so if I refresh it, now it will be 4. Okay, like this. So 4 means it has 4 elements, so you don't need to go for count for testing purposes, count array or whatever length of array. Then it has, if you open it, it has it again are, so 0 is an array, 1 is an array, 2 is an array, 3 is an array. These are indexes, the number based indexes. Okay, and then it has 2 elements too. So you can check how even you can learn data structure from the dumps which you will get from the Symfony var-dumper, and we will use it in Drupal also for testing. So better we started to use it right from today. Hope this is clear. So now just like this, you can download a lot of packages and libraries and whatever you need from packages, and this is the packages list, and that's the beauty of using auto loading. So here you can search any such library and they will have a corresponding composer require command, and you can just use that and start using it. Okay, so coming back to the list we have for today, we'll start with what type hinting is. So prior to this class, I told you that from now on we will be using all our coding via object-oriented PHP rather than procedural PHP. So its type hinting is what we can use in procedural PHP also, but for now let us create a class, and in it we will have some method. In our source directory we can now create, so for example I need a folder and we will call it day 9. Okay, so all our code will be, whatever classes we will create will be inside this folder for today. Then in it we will create a file and we will call it practice.php. okay, so day 9 practice.php. If you remember, if I go back to the composer.json file, our namespaces for the source folder is Drupal DDCDP23. So what should be the namespace for this file so that it can be discovered by the auto loading mechanism?
Drupal
namespace Drupal / day 9. That's it. Okay, Drupal DDCDP23 day 9, and here we will create a class and I will call it, the name of the file should be exactly like the name of the class, so it should be practice, and then we'll have all these things. Okay, for example, here I need to display full name of an employee, whatever. So public function display full name, like this. Okay, so if you have some PHP related extensions installed in VS Code, so probably you might have noticed something like this, but right now I will remove it just for your understanding. Okay, so here I will pass first name, last name, and or maybe middle name, and last name. Okay, I'll save it, and this function will this method will only return what, the concatenation of all these with a dash in or maybe space. So what we can do is return first name, then space, then middle name, and then last name. Okay, now in, and maybe new file, I will create a new file in the root of the site. We'll call it day9.php. simple, day9.php, because class by itself cannot do anything. We need to initialize it first, right? And we need to have require underscore once. And why do we need to have this auto loading? So that our class can be discovered by the autoloader. So you will always have to require this at the top of your page wherever you want the classes to be discovered. So here the class is practice.php and I need to initialize this class. So what I will do, maybe we will create a day9 variable is equals new practice, this. Okay. Do you think this will work?
No, sir.
Why?
We have to use small brackets and passing the.
No. This will work because your editor has already
Added the use.
the use. Otherwise, what we would do, we would have to use this true park, all that, but it has been now included for you, so this will be working. The next step is to run the function day 9, and what that function is, display full name, and here we will pass 3 so Syed, comma Muhammad, and the third one is maybe Shah, whatever. Okay. So what this will do, this will return the, and return means we can catch it somewhere or directly print it. So if I just issue print and run the day9.php file, day9.php, so whatever was passed to it, it is outputting this. Okay, so let us recap. We are passing strings to the function or the method, and then when we are calling the method, we are passing strings. So somebody can still come in and maybe pass something like 5 here, though we have asked the function to only accept strings. So if I refresh the page, you can see 5 Muhammad Shah. So this should not be the behavior. And how to tackle this? So if we come to day 9, where the method is being called, here at the top of the page, if you write declare strict types equals 1, now immediately if we just type this thing into the code, you can see a line here, and your editor will show you something like this: argument 1 passed to display full name is expected to be of type string int given. So even if we now refresh the page, and you can see there is a fatal error of argument 1 first name must be of type string. So that's how you can control. Now if we get back to Syed, and then it will let us run the page, and now it's working fine. Similarly, for example, if I add one more parameter, and that of type int at the end of the display full name function, so here we can add that to int maybe marks. Okay, so here in the output we are returning, in the string we are returning, we can, my marks are color marks. Now if I add maybe some number 60 at the end, so if we refresh the page, we are getting 60 as the value. But if I change it to 60 or maybe 80, some string, now there is that line because of this strict types equal 1, and also the function definition has this int type. So if we refresh the page, there will be an error, and that's the error of passing a string instead of int. That's all there is to it for type hinting in methods. You can control what is being passed to the methods via this strategy. You can precede the parameters with the respective data types, and then when you are using them at the top of the page, you have to write declare strict types 1, and then you can, I will switch this back to maybe 60 or 80. So this is what better programmers will do. Next, okay, what is default argument? What are default arguments to a function, and how we provide default arguments?
Nothing has been sent
Parameters rather, huh?
parameter.
Yeah.
Nothing has been sent to the function, so it will print that element to us.
Exactly. So how can we change? Now we are going to the second part of this, which is type properties. Sorry, yes, we forgot to mention type properties. So maybe first let us do named arguments. Okay. So the default arguments in a parameters in a function is or arguments, you can interchangeably use them. Right now it is being named as parameter. Okay, so we can use equal sign. So for example, I want the first name to be maybe Tony, for example. Okay, so the default first name is going to be Tony. Similarly, the default middle name is going to be Alexander, like this, and the last name is going to be, for example, Khan, and the default marks are maybe 60. Okay, so all of these are default parameters. It means that if we don't, in the function calling, in the method calling here, if we don't pass any values here, all of these values, if we just don't pass any of these values like this, if we don't pass any of these values, so what will be now the default values? Yeah, so if I just refresh the page, so Tony, Alexander, Khan, and my marks are 60. If you don't pass any of the values, then the default values are taken. Got it? But if you pass anything, then those will be used. Okay, now I want to use, for example, everything. Again, let us go to Syed, Muhammad, and the third one is Shah, and the last one is the one I am going to skip. Okay, the last one is the one I am going to skip. So what will be output? Syed Muhammad Shah, and my marks are 60. Got it? Okay, but for example, if I want to just give the defaults to these two, okay, I want to give defaults to these two, and these two should be customized. So how can I do it? Anybody?
So we have to pass the default value to the first two arguments and leave the second one.
So let me repeat. I want to give the last two, I want to print the last two as defaults. So they will be what we have given it as defaults. The last two will be Alexander and Khan and 60. So I want the last two to be default, but the first two to be custom. Okay, so here, for example, if I am calling the function this Syed and Muhammad, and then leave the last two, so the default two will be taken. Okay, this is the first and this is second, and the default will be, so now Khan and 60 are default, and the first two are the ones I have passed, these two, Syed and this. But if I want to do the reverse, what should I do? For example, I want the first two to be defaults, but the last one to be custom. So in that case, for example, the first one to be defaults, and here the last one should be, for example, Angel and
The first two will be empty strings, and then the last two will be
Angel, and the last one is 90, for example, this one. If I do so, what are you expecting?
it will pass the first two. So in that case, Sir G, we have to pass two empty strings.
Yeah, let us try empty strings. So last two are custom, Angel and 90, and the first two we are expecting to be so the last two are being custom and the first two have been skipped. It means there is no way right now the first two are being because these are empty strings. These are empty strings, so we can't they are being output as empty strings. Okay, so for example, if I just pass something A or B to it, it will be alright. So in such scenarios, post PHP 8, we can specify just like this. This is doing for us. The editor is already doing for us. So for example, if I just want to pass two custom parameters for the middle name and the marks, so what I can do here, I will just specify, I will go to the name of the variable middleman. So here day9, here it will be middle name colon, and now, so for example, George or Nabi, for example, the middle name is Nabi and marks colon 80. That's it. Now you can specify the name of the argument parameter with its value. So here, for example, the middle name is Alexander. The default was this, but we are now sending them. Okay, the spellings are incorrect. Middle name. Mars is Nabi.
Practice.php. In practice.php is correct the spellings.
Here?
Practice.php. First name.
Okay. So if I just refresh the page now, so this is default and the last marks have been added, the rest are default. The first name is default, the middle name is Alexander, we have replaced it with the one we have passed, and then the Khan has been taken, and the last one is 60, and that has been replaced. Now the question is, if I want to just change, for example, the last name, if I want to just change the last name and want the rest to be the same defaults, what should I do?
So we have to pass an argument with the variable name, that is last name is equal to that.
Yeah, simple. Previously it was not possible. Now you have to just specify this thing. So last name, this, and it will be, for example, George. That's it. Previously, if I would do something like this, so what would it mean? Then only the first one. It would have been changed, the rest would be the default ones. But here, now, the last name is being changed and nothing else. So if I refresh it, you can expect George in front of Khan. So this. And the other two are, is this clear? Okay. The next is typed properties. Okay. So this is very simple as well. If I come to the practice class again, and here if I public holiday, for example, there is a variable called holiday and it is Saturday. There can be different holidays for different countries. Okay, so public is this variable can be accessed via public. Is a public variable, and the value is the variable name is holiday, but we don't know its data type. So if we just prefix it with string like this, so public string holiday equals Saturday. Okay, this is clear. And if I leave it empty, if I just don't assign it any value, for example like this, so public string holiday means this variable holiday will have a value of string. Okay, if I need to set this up here, for example day 9 and public, this is holiday equals Saturday, so we can do it. Okay, but if I refresh the page, there won't be any change, but that has been set up for us. But if I make it, for example, if I go to the practice.php file and I make it int public int holiday, so do you think it will be working now? Why? Fatal error, type error cannot assign string to property this of type int. Got it? So now you can not set the property as a string because we have set it up as int. So this is what typed properties are. Similarly, we can have arrays. So for example, public array and it is names, for example. Okay, public array names. So if I want to add some value to it, how can I do it? Simple here, because this is now an array. So day 9 and names, what, brackets, equals George. So now we can add values to it. Okay, because this is an array. But if I, for example, make it int or string, so this cannot be then there won't be any error now. This is the old error. Let us change it to string again, this holiday. Okay, so there are times when certain value can be null. Okay, can be null or string, for example. Something which can be null or string or array or null or whatever. So what you can do is you can just use question mark here. Public question mark string holiday. So we can set up, we can make something null. If I just make it null and print, now we can use dump function because we have installed day 9 and holiday. so it's null because we have used the question mark, and in the practice.php here we have used question mark, so it can be null or a string. If I remove this and we have set up null here, do you think this will work? No, uncaught cannot assign null to property this. Got it? Okay, so even this error, these errors, uncaught type error. Uncaught means there is an error but we are not catching it. Okay, so that's why we will be studying exceptions today as well. Once you have successfully deployed exception classes, then such uncaught type errors won't be there. There will be some meaningful name. Okay. Now let us come to what getters and setters are. Getters and setters. This is very important concept. If you notice, we just used to day 9 holiday. We are directly accessing properties. So what are properties? Difference between properties and methods? Yeah, property is like a variable inside a class or object, and method is a method. Okay, so we are directly accessing properties like this. Okay, day 9 property, we can do it, but normally in object-oriented programming there are setters and getters, and it has a reason also. So we will just examine. For example, here we have another variable which is public int, and it is going to be some rate, whatever it is. Okay, or we can call it discount. Okay, but I want discount to be between 10 and 20% only. 10 for example, between 11 to 20, not less than 10 and greater than 20, something like this. So public int, this is a variable discount. So in the day9.php file we can just set day9 and the is discount equals say 30. Okay, and if I dump it, so the discount will be 30. Let us remove that previous error. We'll make it question mark again so that null can also be assigned to it. Okay, so if I refresh it, so the discount is 30. Okay, because we have set it as 30, but we want to set it between 10 and 20. Okay, 11 or 20. That's why such getters and setters are very important. And first thing is, we will make the variable discount private. What is it? Private variable. It can only be accessed inside the class. It has been defined. Okay, it cannot be accessed from outside the class. So if I just access this day9, here you can, even here we have error now, this squiggle line, that member has private visibility and it is not accessible from the current context. So we cannot, even if I refresh the page, there will be error that I cannot access private property, because it can only be accessed from the class, within the class, not outside the class. And here we are outside the class. In day9.php we are outside the class. So directly, to safeguard variables, directly you should not be changing its value, for example. That's why we made this variable private and discount. But now I need to change it as well, for example. So what you can do is, it is known as, these are setters and getters. So here we will be setting a value. So public function set, the convention is set and then the name of the variable. So set discount, something like this. Okay, set discount, and here this function will be passed the value. So what should it be? Int, and int maybe value. Okay, and void means it should not return anything, so this is good suggestion. So public function set discount, and it is being passed a value, and the values type will be int. Okay, so what will this function do? This will this dot this discount value, okay, discount, like this, equals what? Value. So whatever is passed to this function, this discount variable will be set. So now we are not directly setting this private int discount, we will be setting it via this function, this method. So here in day9.php, like we were setting it directly, I will just comment this line out. Now we will use day9 this what? Set discount, and here it will be passed a value. So for example, if I pass 30, and it has been set up. Okay, again this cannot be accessed directly because this is private. So to access it, even we will have to get the values. So again here we will create another function, and it is known as getters and setters. So public function get discount, it was set discount, it was setting the value, now it is getting discount. Okay, discount, and here what we will return? Return this dot discount, whatever is the this property. Okay, so as it is int, so it already has suggested us to be returning int value. So set discount is for setting the discount value, get is for getting this. Simple, it is very simple. We are now not directly accessing like this the values, we'll be using. So here the function is get discount, like this. Now if I refresh the page, we will get 30 because the value was set as 30, but it is still the same. I mean, we have not taken any advantage of setting the variable name via the method. That's why we have used this function set discount. So whatever value is passed to it, it will be setting it. So here we will use some if else. If value is greater than 20, if the value is greater than 20, what it will do? It will make the value 20. For example, if somebody passes 21, okay, so this if condition will turn the highest value to 20 if the value is 20. Similarly, if $value is less than 10, so value equal 10. These are two conditions. Now whatever is the value, it is being set here. So we have passed it 30. What are you expecting now? What should be the value? 20. Got it? If I pass it 9, where is it? Yes. Okay, so if I pass it 9, for example, like this, so what should be the value? So with this logic, you can understand why we need setter methods. You can control the value of the variable assignment. Okay, previously we were not able to control the value. Now we can control the value of the variable. So only we can have values between 10 and 20 for this variable because of this logic. Just this logic inside the setter, and we are controlling this, the value of this discount variable. Is this clear? So setters and getters are for setting the values and getting the values. So normally if you have say 20 properties, normally what you can do is so you will have corresponding setter and getter values for those properties. Is this clear? Okay, next in the list, so we have studied type hinting, type properties. What were type properties? These are all very closely related stuff. So this was type properties, this question mark string or whatever. These properties can have some data type as well. So then we studied named arguments also. So what were named arguments? This, if we go to the code where the function is being called in day9.php here, so this is last name, this is named argument. You can specify the function at function calling that this is this value being passed is this argument. Okay, we also have studied getters and setters. So getters and setters, for getters are to get a private variable property, and setters are to set a private property. So we can have any number of getters and setters for certain values. Let me just quickly give you another example of so this set discount function is, maybe here we have another in practice.php we will add another function value, and that is going to be maybe something like so private string and $sign prefix. Okay, so private string prefix. So here we will use the setter for this will be set prefix. Setter for this will be, this is private variable, okay, set prefix. So public function. Okay, one thing, the setters are public. The functions setter and getter are public, so that they can be accessed from outside the class. But the variables which they are changing, or the properties they are changing, are private, so they can only be accessed from within the class and in that method. So public function set prefix, okay, and whatever we pass it will be, so it's going to be a string and $sign prefix. Okay, so how to set this? This dot prefix is private variable equals whatever is being passed to it, prefix. Okay, whatever is being passed to it is prefix. And here we define another private variable which we need here only within the function. So we need private variables, sorry, within the class we need private variables. If they have to be accessed from outside the class, they are public, but we are setting this as private for now. So maybe we will create an array, and array is $allowed underscore prefixes, like this, private allowed prefixes, and we will initialize it with Mr. Janab, and what else can we have? Maybe Pashto word of Khagale. Okay, these are the three prefixes, okay, which is a private variable. So if the prefix being set is not in this array, Mr. Janab and Khagale, these are not the three values passed to this function prefix of set prefix. So what can we do? If prefix, sorry, if in array and in array what should be the name prefix and this dot allowed prefixes. So if this prefix is not in this array, if this prefix which is passed to the function is not in this array, if it is in there, so we will set it up as this, like this, okay. Else, what does this mean? Else this dot prefix equals and no prefix allowed, something like this, whatever. So what this code shows, whatever the prefix is being passed, so this variable which we have defined, prefix, private string prefix, if this array it is in this array, so we will use that prefix, otherwise this will be the no prefix allowed, okay. And in this function, the first name where we are displaying full name, here we will use another variable from this class, that is $, this prefix, and maybe some this, okay. So set prefix means this is now a setter for this variable private string prefix, okay. In day9.php here, if I set the value of, or maybe at the top here, because we are printing it here, so day9 set prefix will, if I use Mr. for example, so is it allowed or not?
Yes, sir,
Allowed. So it will this now will have Mr. This name will have Mr. with it, Mr. Mr. Tony, okay. If I pass it Janab, then it will have Janab, but if I pass it, for example, His Excellency, okay, if I pass it His Excellency, so where what will be displayed here? No prefix allowed. Got it? Why is it so? Because we have now controlled assigning the private variable we have assigned this practice has a prefix and it is private, it cannot be accessed from outside. If we make it public, so anybody can then access it from here just like this and give it any prefix. So for example, for some time let us give it make it private, public, so that it can be directly accessed here. And rather than passing using this function His Excellency, if we directly access it now, day 9, it will be prefix, because now it can be accessed because it is public, is equal to His Excellency. So we have broken the rule, it can be directly accessed. And now if I refresh the page, you can see His Excellency. So the setter methods are for controlling the value of the variables, and we will revert it to how it was. And even if I just change this public to private again, what do you expect? There will be an error that private variables cannot be accessed. I will just remove this line because that is already being done by the code we have in the method. Is this clear now? Why do we use setter and getters? That's the main purpose. Okay, so this is now going to be visibility in detail. So we already have studied public and private. Now there is the third one, protected. And where do we use the protected ones? So that is when we extend a class. If a class is extended, then in the child classes we can use the protected property. So let us quickly demo that as well. I will create another class and I will call it in the day9.php we will create a new file and we'll call it book.php. Here you will have just a class book, and it will have a property public. We will make it, let us make it private for now, and it is a string, and the name is IBN number you might have seen in Mon books. Okay, IBN. This is just a simple class with one property. And now there will be another class, and what are we missing? We are not namespacing it, so it is Drupal and then day 9 like this. Okay, now we need to extend this class. So here, new file, it will be maybe digital book.php, digital book and digital book. Okay, here we need to have a namespace as well, and what should be that? Drupal this, that's it, /day9. Okay, here class digital book extends book, and here we need to have a property. Okay, and the property is not a property but a method. So maybe public function get IBN. Okay, like this, public function get IBN, and it will be just printing for now. Just let us print it. So print $, this IBN. like this. Okay,
We have defined the variable with the private.
yeah, exactly, that's why the error show the error must show show this. Okay, so now if I initialize in day9.php here, if I create a new class, or maybe we need to just comment out all the older code. So digital book equals new digital book, and here it has automatically added the namespace. Okay, the editor has automatically loaded the namespace for us, so it is Drupak DDCDP D9 and digital book. So here now this is the object, and digital book get IBN, that's it. If I refresh the page, undefined property IBN, why?
Because we defined it inside. We have defined it with the private keyword
We have defined it in the private, and private variables are only accessible
inside the class.
inside the class. So this is if you go to the book variable, here we have private string IBN, and let us make it something like this is a number, okay, whatever it is. So private string IBN, so this code, this variable will only be accessible, this property will only be accessible inside the book class. Though digital book is extending the book class, but this variable is not accessible here. If you make the variable public, now that error will go away. Now we can access it. Okay, but that was private, that's why that was not accessible. But the drawback is of making the variable public, and you already have seen it. We can now change this value, and it is accessible from outside the class. We only want this variable to be accessible inside the child classes also, but not outside. So what we can do is we can make this variable protected. That's it. Now if I refresh the page, you will see no error, because this is being accessed from the child class. This is now being accessed from the child class. Okay, and if I directly want to change it, if I make a say for example a new class of book also, okay, this book, let us do it, new object, so book equals new book class, where it is, this one, and book IPN, and I just print it. Do you think it will be,
No, sir.
or it will give us some error?
Error.
Unquoted cannot access protected property. So because though it is inside this class, but it is protected, that's why we cannot access it. But the child classes can access the protected property, that's why it is being accessed. Is this clear?
Yes.
So wherever you see protected, it means any classes which will be extending this class will have visibility of this protected variable.
Also, it can be visible to the class itself.
Yes, so it can be accessed within the class, but not from outside the class. Okay, so let us go to the list of topics we were studying. So we have covered all these now. The next is constructor promoted properties. So if you come back to practice.php, you can see we have no constructor in this class at the moment. Okay, class practice, we have no properties here. So for example, I want the there is no constructor at the moment, so let us create a constructor first. Public function underscore underscore construct, and that's it. Okay, so as we have already studied constructors, whatever code runs whenever the class is initialized, so whatever is inside this construct function will run automatically. So right now we were setting the holiday after the new keyword had been issued. So what if I want immediately this holiday variable to be populated once the class is initialized? So in that case, here for example, we can use this dot holiday equals maybe such a day. Okay, so now when the class is initialized, let us do it. Practice equals new practice, and if I now access property practice holiday and print it, so what are you expecting? Saturday. Okay, because now constructor sets that property for us. It directly initializes that property for us. And to make it dynamic, what we can do, we will pass an argument, maybe it is string day. Okay, so here it will become day like this. So now while calling the constructor in day9.php here, because now it is expecting a variable argument, so here we will use, say for example, I want the holiday to be Friday, so now you will see Friday. Let me comment it out. Got it? So this is a very powerful feature, and so far we would use this directly in constructors. So if we come to the constructor again, you can see string day is being passed to it, and then this holiday variable is set inside the body of the construct function. Okay, so prior to PHP 8, or maybe say I'm not exactly sure when it came in PHP, but now what we can do is we can directly, and that's what this constructor promoted properties mean. Okay, so directly we can just, rather than this, I will comment it out. What we can do is string day it is public or private? The holiday public. Okay, so public string day directly, so we don't even need to have this here now. Okay, and even we don't need this, then I will remove it. So now public string day, what does this mean? It will automatically create this variable for us, and this variable is the method what is called property. It's of type this, and whatever is being passed to it will be assigned this. So rather than doing this ourselves, this dot this holiday equals day, this will do it for us. This is clear? I'll comment this out. So
if you want to use this day in the other method, what should we do?
yeah, so in other method it actually will create this property for you, so then it will be this day. So if I just refresh it, holiday, sorry, we are setting it as
You have to
holiday.
the whole day.
This is holiday. So now it actually is two steps into just one line. Okay, this is the name of the variable of type string, and you can also use this as well. Okay, so your question was how to use this now. So this is exactly like this: public string $holiday, like this. Okay, so you can use it with this holiday. Got it? So this is setting up of properties via constructors parameters. Hope this is clear. The next we have exception handling. So exception handling is, and in any programming languages there is some mechanism for handling errors and exceptions, and that is what we will be trying to do in this session. So I will create another class and name it percentager.php, percentager, or whatever you can call it, percentager.php. Okay, and it will have, we will name space it as day 9, like this, and class percentager. Okay, this will have a method, and we will make it public function calculate percentage, and that's it. Okay, do you know what is percentage formula? For example, the first one will be a string, sorry, number, total number. Okay, so it will be int obtained, and the second will be
Total.
int total. Int obtained, int total. So return, or maybe print, just for simplicity's sake. So if we print obtained divided by
multiply by 100
total, multiply by 100, right? something like this. Yes, fine. Okay, and the return value should be, maybe we are not returning anything, we're just printing it for now. Okay, so for example, now we need to just call it. I will go to day9.php, and here let us just comment the rest of the stuff for now. So $sign percentager equals new percentager. So the new class has been initialized, and then I need to percentage and calculate percentage. Here we will have, for example, if somebody has taken 1000 marks out of 1200, so what is going to be his percentage? So let us just check. We did 3 point this whatever, right? So we are able to get the percentage. But what if somebody, for example, you are not controlling what values are being passed to this method? If I just so what if somebody passes 0 to this value, and you know what happens if you divide something by 0, maybe infinity, and your computer even hangs or something like that. So we should not be dividing by 0 at any cost, right? So what we can do is, for example, if we go to the percentager class again, and here we are printing obtained divided by total marks multiplied by 100. So here if somebody passes 0 as a total value, so here we can have an if statement. If whatever is passed is total, so if total is equal to 0 or less than 0, whatever. So for now let us do it for 0. So if this happens, so what we can do is throw new exception, and the exception will have a message, and that could be division by 0 not allowed, something like this. And you can see exception has no line under it, because it is being used as exception class. Here at the top, the editor itself did it for us. Otherwise, because this is native PHP class, so we would have to use this backslash with it, but we don't need it now because the use has used the exception handler. So now if we refresh the page and pass 0 with it to the method in day 9, here if we pass 0, which we already are, and if I refresh the page, so it is giving us an exception, division by 0 not allowed. So this is that text which we have passed, but still it is uncaught. Okay, so we have thrown the exception, and that is working, but the exception is not being caught. So where is it caught? It is caught wherever you are using your code. So here we are using this stuff, and here we have to wrap it in try. So this is going to be the try block. So all the code which you want to run when there are no errors will be inside the try block, like this, and it has an associative catch block, and here we will be using exception again, because the type of the is exception, and it can be any variable e or exception. Normally people use it as exception, and then again the brackets. So let us quickly analyze what it does. So this try will be run if everything is fine. Otherwise this block will run. So here we have some problem of 0. So if this error occurs, I mean there should be no 0, so it will quickly jump to this line, and here we can do something, and the exception class needs to be added here because so it can be either this, which means the base exception PHP class, or you can use exception at the top of the page here. So use exception like this. Okay, so exception. So this variable now has exception get message. This is get message variable, okay, and we will print it. So let us recap. The try will try to run the code you want to run, but if it has some error, because we have set it up here, if there is some error, it should throw an exception. So once it throws an exception, it should jump to the catch block, and this is catch block, and in catch block you can do anything. So it can be passed the exception class instance, and here it has a method get message which can be printed. So if we refresh the page now, okay, we don't need to use it because we need this is not a class, this is just outside the class, so we don't need to use exception there. If we refresh the page, so division by 0 not allowed. So this is that same message which we had passed it, and now we are catching the error. Okay, this exception has some more properties as well, or methods, so we can use those too. For example, here we can use print $exception for example. You can use line number here, print $exception file, and we can use .br So you can see, or let us quickly construct a message, meaningful message. Okay, so here we can print some error occurred. The error is, and what the error is, you can use this and exception get message, right? And then we can have the error is this, the error occurred on line. In which line? So we can use $sign again here and exception get line like this, right? In file, which file? So again we can use $sign exception get file, right? So this is that exception, some error occurred, the error is this, so whatever is passed from here is inside the get message. So if this, when we are throwing an exception, this message will be there. And then get line will let us know from in which line that error occurred, and then in which file that error occurred, right? And if we refresh the page, so some error occurred. The error is division by 0, not allowed. The error occurred on line 14 in file this. Is this clear? So now this is very meaningful, and your developer or junior developer can know where the error has occurred, or the user. Okay, this is native PHP exception. So what we can do is we can create our own exception classes as well. We can create our own exception classes. So for example, here we just need to, or maybe let us create in day 9, we will create a new folder and we will call it exceptions. Exceptions. Okay, here we will create a new file, we'll call it file not found .php, for example. This is going to be a class file not found. Okay, here the first thing is namespace, so it is going to be true park this, then day 9, then exceptions. Exceptions or exceptions? Exceptions. Name, true park this. Okay, here we will define class file not found, right? What should it extend? The core exception class, this one. This is very important. So all the methods and properties of exception will now be inside this. It shows this, but what if I want to remove this slash from it? What should I do? Use. Well done. And now I don't need to have this with it. Okay, just with this we can now have our own inspection classes. Okay, and for example, I will create this is a file data.json. Just for simplicity, this file data.json, and in day 2 I will create another class in day 9, just simple class. Okay, and this is all for demo purposes, so that you know how we can have our own custom exception classes. So in day 9 root, we will create a new file and we will call it file finder.php. okay, file finder.php, and here what should be the namespace? Drupal DDCDP23 / day 9, because it is in the root of day 9. Okay, here we'll class file finder, and it will have a method, public function find, maybe find, and it will be passed a string. Okay, what that string should be? Maybe file name. We can call it file name, and it is going to be string like this. Okay, so it will just be passed a file name, and if that file name exists, well and good, we will print it, or we will print yes, this file name exists. Otherwise we will throw a new exception. We will throw, and now of which type that exception will be? The one we have created ourselves. Okay, so let's do it. So if $file name, and there is a function file underscore exists. It returns true. Okay, so if file underscore exists, which file? The name which has been passed to it. Then print file exists. This is good. If file exists, this. Else, if it doesn't exist, so what will we do? Throw new, not exception now, but file not found exception, something like this. File not found exception, and this, and it has it included here as well. The norm normally is to precede it with exception here, so that you know it is an exception. Okay, so file not found exception, and here in exceptions we will have to rename this class as well, file name as well, exception, and in the file we need to change the class name as well. Got it? So if in the file finder class, if the file exists, we will print hurrah, file exists. Otherwise what we will do is throw new exception this, and exception. Got it? So if file doesn't file is not found by the system, it will throw this exception. That's it. Now in day 2, day 9.php, if I will comment out all the older code. Okay, here we'll again use, in order to use the so in order to use your exceptions, you will always place your code, for example, in try and catch block, and catch should have now which exception? File not found exception, not found exception, this one, and it can be f or anything, the variable can be anything. Okay, and then the brackets, this one. So here we will write our code. If it runs well and good, otherwise here we will have the catch stuff. So now we can write what we should write. We should initialize the file finder class, right? So file finder equals new file finder. File finder, this one. Okay, this is new, and then file finder function find, and it will be passed data dot JSON. Right, and if this is found, that hurrah message will be printed, otherwise this catch will be. So here we will use now f get error, get message, sorry, this one, and we'll print it. Now let us try if it works. Hurrah, file exists. Why? Because that file is there in the directory. Okay, but if I just change this to AA or maybe S, right, now this file doesn't exist here. So what are you expecting? An error, and we are not printing that error. Rather, if you go to this, we are not passing through, we are not passing that string here, which needs to be printed. So file not found. Got it? check spellings for of the file name. It can be anything, okay? So if I refresh it now, file not found, please check spellings of the file name. Is this okay now? So the steps involved in creating a custom exception handling is: first you need to create an exception handle class which extends the main exception, and then any code where you want that exception to be thrown. So in any if statement you should do what you want to do, but if in the else you can use throw new, that type of exception, and then whenever you are instantiating the class or using it, so you can use try and catch, and in the try, if everything goes well, this block will run, otherwise that exception will be caught here. Next on the line is so we have done this. Now the singleton concept. So as the name shows, singleton means it's a design pattern in programming, in any programming language, in which you want a class to be initialized only once. You want the class to be initialized only once. For example, in our code here, we can have other file finders as well. Here, if I just copy and paste this code here, or in other files maybe including, so we are initializing the file finder here and also here. So this is burden on the memory, your PHP memory and server memory and all. So some things which don't need to be initialized again and again, there we can use something called singleton. So for example, let us create in day 9 I will create another folder and call it maybe database or DB or whatever database. So in day 9 I have created another folder called it database, and here we will now create a file which is connection.php. So you already know we should have one connection per whole application. We should not be reinitializing all the connection data again and again. So in connection.php we should have first the namespace. The namespace should be truepark DDCDP23 and database. Day 9 and then database. Here class connection. That's it. Okay. So here we will create a private variable method, or we will call it instance. Okay. If I just use this private connection instance, what does this mean? Anybody?
We can use it inside the class.
No, we studied type hinted properties. Do you remember?
Yes.
So what does this mean?
only accept connection.
Yeah,
will use it.
so this instance is of type connection is this, but this is for another day. For now we will make it static. So we already have studied what static properties are. What are they used for? When we don't need to initialize
Class
a class.
directly use it.
Yes. Okay, then we will have a public or public static method, and its name is maybe get instance. Okay, this is very tricky. You just need to be fully concentrative for this part of the okay. So all the brackets okay. Yes, so public static and function, we are missing function, and it is returning void, but we are not using void for it. Void means it should not return anything, but it should return something, and that is called self means this class itself, the object of this class itself. Okay, so you already now know what the getters and setters are. So this is a private static instance, and this function is the getter of it. Means if we call it from outside the function, outside the class, it will be getting us this instance. Okay, so we can use if, and here even we can use null to initialize it with null. Okay, so private static instance null, initially it is null. So if, how to access the static properties from within the class? Self. Well done. So if self colon instance is if this is not null, what does this mean? The instance is there. Okay, so if this self instance is equal to null, what does this mean? This instance is null, that's it. So what you do, return, or maybe this self $instance equals self instance equals new, and we can use self. So what does this code mean? We already have set it up as null. The private property, static property status is null. Okay, so this function is the getter for this instance. What is this saying? Okay, this one. If self instant is equal to null, means this value is not initialized, it is null. So what we can do, we can assign this instance a new self. New self means new object of this connection. New self means new object of this class connection. Okay, and then we will return self $instance. This is very little code but very tricky. Okay, let us repeat. We created a connection class. It has a private static property, and its name is instance, which is initially null. Then we are creating a public method, or maybe So now this class is ready in our d9.php. For example, here we need it for connection. Okay, so what we can do is, because these are static methods, so we can use the connection class and then call this get instance. Okay, so in here at the bottom, maybe we can just comment out the previous code. Okay, so con, just like you used to do. So what we will do, connection, and what should we call, get connection. That's it. Connection, get connection, unknown class connection. So what we need to do, we should use that Truepark disable database connection. This is that connection. Okay, what it means, get connection, sorry, get instance. The name of the function is get instance. So what will get instance do? And if I just var dump it, or maybe dump con, so what are you expecting? What are you expecting?
Instance, getting the instance with a nullability.
So this is the same class, it's the instance of this class. Okay, so it means it has worked properly. Now if for the second time, for example, somewhere else I get another variable and I will use the same get instance method again. Okay, connection this. Now if, for example, I want to compare both, con equal con2, do you think it will be true or false? Why? Because
both instances are made from the one get instance function.
okay, if I just refresh, it will be true. But why it is true, I'm going to basically explain this first. If we were using, I will come back to the connection class again. Okay, I will make this function normal, not static but general normal function. Okay, public function get instance. Okay, I'll make this public for now, just for the demo purpose, public and whatever it is. Okay, public this and public function get instance. Now how can I access this get instance property? Anybody? And this will become this, because this and $sign this. Okay, and return this dot instance, right? So now if I need to use this connection there again here in d9.php, so what I will do, I cannot do this now.
Yes, sir. Initialize it first.
So I will first initialize it. Okay, new connection, right? And similarly here I will use new connection, right? Now if I just false, now these are two separate objects, not one object. Okay, this one is separate than this one, though it is calling the same connection. These are different. Okay, but here once they were static, that was true. So why? So let us redo all the changes we have done. I will explain it now. And here also we need to
put a statement before the function.
And on here let us have some undos as well. Okay, so once this function is we call connection get instance. So let us go to the get instance function. This is the get instance function. If it says if self instance is equal to null, because we have initialized it as null. So self instance, it is setting this variable as new self. It's new self means new instant of it,
New object.
instance exactly automatically of itself, right? And then we are returning the self instance. So whatever it is, this value is initially null, and it then sets it up as new self and returning this value. So for the first time here in the code, once this is run, so what it has done, it has created this connection, and this connection is an object, okay, of which
So I think it is returning the same instance to the.
so for the second time when it is run, so it checks if self instance is equal to null. It is not null, it has been set to the new self already,
Yes, sir.
so it is just returning it, right? That's the trick, and that's why it is called singleton. This class has been initialized by itself by this technique, and each time now you run, where it is, this one, each time you run this connection get instance method, it will always return the same object which has been set up in the private variable. That's why both are equal. Okay, let me give you another example as well. Maybe if we can write something inside this function, and here, for example, you always know if a function is run again and again, the same code will be run the same number of times. So if self instance is equal to null, here I just print this code has run only once, and it is the proof. Okay, so inside this if self instance is equal to null, I am printing this. Okay, and inside this day 9, here if I even repeat these variables maybe 3 or 4 more times, con 3, con 4, so this function is being run 4 times, and this is the code which I have written inside this function, so it should also run 4 times normally, right?
Yes, sir.
For example, if I run, okay, so if I refresh the page, this should run, but this has only run 1 time. Why? Because this code inside the self instant equal run null is run only once.
Only one time. Yes, sir.
If I move this outside the function, now it will be run 4 times, like this. So this proves that this code only runs once, and then it always returns because it has been set up in this instance variable. Is this clear? So there can be different variations of this concept, but overall this is known as singleton. You can Google about it yourself as well. It can be used in a larger application, it can be used in a lot of places, so that you can know what it does. This is very important. Now let us and this is very important as well, let static binding. It is also called factory methods, and again this is very tricky. You should be very concentrative to this one as well. Let static binding. Okay, we already have created two classes. If you remember, which ones were they? Book and then digital book. Maybe we can create another one which is printed book, printed book and digital book. Okay, so here we will create another class and we will call it printed book.php. So we have book, printed book and digital book. So inside the printed book, the namespace should be to park this and then day 9, simple, and class printed book. What should it extends book. So we have the parent book and then it has two sub classes, printed book and digital book, printed book and digital book. That's it. But for some reason, and you again, when we will be creating that framework, we will know why it is important. But for now, let us have something called abstract. Abstract class book. Okay, and it should have a function, public function. You can call public function get name. If we want to just make it abstract, what does this mean?
So we can not use it directly. We have to use it inside the child class.
Exactly. This method will be used and it must be used in the child class, and it will have no body here. Okay, and it should return what? It should return a string for us.
It's like a 3D class.
It is like interface kind of. Abstract public function. This is very confusing. Auto get abstract public function get name or get title. We can, normally books have titles. Okay, get title. It is a method and that's it. Abstract public function get title. Okay, it should return what? String. That's it. Now whichever class extends this book class will have to implement this get title method. Okay, and already you can see both this digital book and printed book are read. Why? Because in these two classes, because they are children of this parent class, they should have this method get title. And here we need to have one public or maybe private, because we are using so private string and title equals introduction to programming digital edition. right? Maybe in brackets we can use this. Okay, so this is private string title. The title is this, and we need to have that function so that this error goes away. So what it will be, public function what, get title string, and here we will what should it print? This title. That's it. And same function should be inside the other class as well. Same code, in fact. So let us copy it in the printed book also like this, and it should be printed edition. Got it? Okay, what are abstract classes? They are not instantiated by itself, but by a child class. Okay, so if you come to the abstract class again, this one, we can have a create method here. Okay, create. Okay, and it should return not void but book, like this. Abstract static function okay, this function create or we can make it inside this public. Let me just think. Let us not make it abstract. Okay, so public function, public static function create, and it can have this. Okay, so here we can use something called return new book. Static this. Public static function this, return new static. Okay, do you think this can be used inside the book class now? Can we use it inside the book class? Okay, let us just use this function now, digital book. Okay, inside the day 9 lecture, and if I just comment out all the older code, So digital equals digital book create. We can access it. Okay, so digital equals digital book create, and if I dump digital get title, what do you expect?
This is a programming book.
Introduction to programming. Maybe so. Introduction to programming digital edition is there, but maybe we are return value must be none return in line 14. Let us just quickly fix that error first. Get title print. Okay, this is print. This is, it should be void. Okay, now you should know why we are having what is void. When a function doesn't return anything, it is void. And in the
Inside the book is we are returning the string. Remove the string.
good. Now you should know why these rules are there. Okay, so introduction to programming digital edition, we are just printing it, we are not returning anything, that's why it is null. And if I now remember, I am not using the new, I am not using the new, so this is known as factory method. Why? Because this create method creates a class for us, new class for us, just like previously we did for the singleton. So this digital now is an instance of this class. It is similar to using new, but for now we have just used the factory method, and again we will have a separate session why these factory methods and all the these are known as design patterns. Why are these very important, better than using just the new? Okay, now if I just I need to create the printed book. So printed equals, what should I do? We already have a printed book class, this. So printed book and its create method. So what create method does? It creates an instance of it, this an instance of it, and it is storing it here, and then we can just print so $sign printed and get title, that's it. We should have print var here as well. Okay, so what are you expecting now? Introduction to programming printed edition. That class has been initialized for us automatically using the create method. And how all this happened? If you go back to the book class, so here we have one create method. It returns book. Book means an instance of it. But in its child classes, because it cannot be initialized by itself, the abstract classes, so we have created digital book and printed book, okay, which are extending the book class. So here the create method, we don't have create method, but it is using the parents create method. So if I just return self, it means the book, but static means whichever class initializes it, uses it, it will create that class's instance. Okay, so if I dump, So again I will repeat, this new static means any extended class which uses this create method, that will be returned, the instance of that class will be returned for us. Okay, so we are done with return new static, and let me briefly re-explain what this new static does. So for example, we have the child class printed book which extends the book. Similarly, we have digital book which extends the book. So we could have used this book classes create method in each of its subclasses, but that would be redundancy because everywhere we would have to use this create. So if it does the same thing of returning the class, so why not do it in the parent class? But here if you see abstract, the class is abstract, so if we make it self, we can't initialize it because it is abstract. So we will make it static, return new static. So what return new static does is, whichever class calls this method create, its instance will be created and returned. So in this, here we are basically, this creates instance of printed book and this creates instance of the digital book, and then we can call all the methods in it. That's it. And this is also called factory design pattern, factory, because this create method does what? It creates object of this class, so that's why it is called factory. Okay, the next is final keyword. So you might have seen final written with PHP classes or the methods. So for example, we have the percentager class here. What percentager class does is public function calculate percentage and obtain marks and total marks, and that's it. And somebody comes in, maybe some junior developer, and he creates a new class. So let us create that new class in the day9 folder. We'll call it new percentager.php, and the namespace will be Drupal DDCDP23 day 9 class percentager, class new percentager extends percentager, and here he defines this calculate percentage again. So this is known as, what is this called in object oriented programming? If you copy the parent method and change it according to yourself, what does it called? This is known as function overriding. Okay, for example, you want to have your own version of this function and it is extending the parent percentager class, so you can make some changes here. Okay, but what we want to do is, we just don't want him, because he's changing the percentage formula, for example, or maybe doing something else which we don't want to do him to do. In that case we just don't want him to change this calculate per we just don't want him to override this function. Okay, so what we can do is, in the parent class we'll make it final public function. Okay, and in this class, because now it shows cannot override final method. You can see even editor lets you know that the final method cannot be overridden. It means he will have to comply with that function in the parent class, and he cannot do this. So this is known as final keyword with the method. Is it clear? Methods can be by default overridden by copying the same method from the function and reuse it according to your own needs. But if you want that function not to be overridden, so you can use the final keyword with the parent function like this. Similarly, so this user now can have his own some more logic here in his classes, and if for example you even don't want that to happen, I mean he is now extending our class, though we have limited his ability to use our function percentage, calculate percentage, but still he can extend the class. And if we are sure that certain class should not or should never be extended, for example, so in that case, just like abstract classes, or maybe not now, so if we make the class itself final like this, so what does this mean? That this class should also not be extended. So here, even here now it says parent class this is declared as final. Final means nothing, that's it. Got it? So that's how the final keywords work. Both you can use it for classes as well as for the methods inside a class. Maybe you have a class which has 10 methods, and one of them you want to not to be overridden by the child classes. There you can use the final keyword.
It's like constant in JavaScript.
You can, yes, exactly, you can see. Okay, now let us come to single responsibility principle. This is one of the principles of object oriented programming in PHP or any other classes languages. Then composition and dependency injection, all of these are sort of related topics, so let us study them now. Okay, so we have let us for example, we have a requirement of displaying visa information of various countries, how to apply for, or application process for each country, maybe UK, US, India, Pakistan, whatever. So we wanted to have a system like that, and what we can do is, this is all for demo purpose so that you can understand what these concepts are. So in day 9 we will create a folder, and again these folders are to properly manage your classes so that you can easily search them. So we will create a folder called visa, and in visa we will create a new file and we will call it visa info.php. visa info.php. Here the first thing is to namespace it, and it should be Drupal this day 9, and then visa. Is it in day 9 or yes? Yeah, it's in this. Okay, now we will create a file here, visa info.php. So class visa info, and that's it. Okay, for now let us just create a few methods, and each method will display information of a particular country. Okay, so for example, public function US info, or let us US visa info. For now, just for the ease purpose of ease, we will print the US visa info is as follows, and some lorem ipsum text or whatever. So this is for the US visa. Now the UK visa, so let us quickly copy all these functions. UK visa info, and this is for UK, and another one for Australia. And this can be some very complex system, but for now let us just print these three. Now the next step is on in the 9.php. Here let us just quickly comment out the older code. Here what we will do, initialize the class visa info. So visa, for example, this is for Australia. So visa aus equals new visa info, and by using this it will automatically create a use for us. This is okay. The next thing is visa aus and get, what is that method? US Australia visa info. Okay, so if I refresh the page, this is Australia visa info as follows. So for example, we are now getting the Australia visa. So according to the single responsibility principle, if we just examine this visa info class, so this is not going to serve as just one purpose, because it has US visa info as well, UK visa info as well, and Australia visa info as well. Similarly, if for example I need to have another country's visa info, so I will create another function here, and I will use, for example, it is for Saudi Arabia, so KSA visa info, this is KSA visa info. So when you are changing a class for a new requirement, mostly, so this means this is not single responsibility principle. Similarly, if I have now to change, for example, the requirement is that you should write the visa info is at the start of everything, so I will have all that text written in these methods. Also, if you come to the way we have initialized it, though it is visa Australia, but if I just print visa aus and KSA info, so it is giving us KSA info also. This means this is not single responsibility, this is doing a lot of stuff which we don't want. That's why composition means using objects inside objects or class inside classes. So we will improve upon this. Where is it? And then we will studying composition. So how can we improve it? We will, let us start first from just one method in this function. I will delete all the others, and we will change the name of this function as just visa info. Okay, for now we will just output it as the visa info is as follows, and I will change the day 9 as just visa info. So now this is generic message, the visa info is as follows. Okay, and the next step is we will create inside the visa for each country we will create a file. So for example, here I will create a UK info dot or UK visa info dot php. Okay, similarly here the namespace should be Drupal DDCDP23, then day 9, and then visa, and the class is called UK visa info. Okay, here we will have public function info, just info is fine for now, and here we will return the UK visa is as follows. Okay, so this class has the info method, and it says the UK visa info is this. This can be very complex document, but for now just this text means that this is the information for the UK visa info. Similarly, let us just quickly copy and paste it for US. US UK visa info dot php. Okay, here the name should be US, and this is US. US visa info does not match PSR.
You have used US in UK, in UK and US.
US. Okay, this is
UK. Change the class name also.
UK, and this is getting confusing. This is US.
Change the class name according to the file name, sir.
Okay. This is US, so this is US.
Change UK.
This is US. Is it okay now?
Yes.
Okay, so these are two methods, and similarly if we need another country, we will create similar file with the similar function info. So what does this mean? What should we have so that nobody misses the info function in that class? We need to have a contract where each class, such class should have a good. So we need to have an interface, and we will call it visa info interface.php, and it is namespaced exactly like classes, so it should be Drupal DDCDP23 and day 9 and then visa. So interface this, and it should have a method called public function info. Good, and that's it. and we can have returns as well. For example, it should be returning a string, something like this. Okay, now let us just remove this for now from the US class. So US visa info, okay, it should implement this interface, which is visa info interface, and the US one also implement visa interface. So both are showing must be compatible with this as info public function info public function info. So it means we
Define the method.
public function info string, evaluation of this must be compatible with this info string. Is it not compatible yet?
So interface.
Public function info, I think it is okay. Maybe error is, maybe namespaces are visa.
Yes, yes, the visa info interface. We should give the namespace on that.
No, it is in the same interface, that's why it doesn't need to be there. Basically it sees this as a different thing. Okay, I think it is okay. Maybe let us initialize this visa info now, or okay, actually the errors we are getting, I thought this is what we have written, but this is just suggestion, so we just need to double click it. That's it. It needed these string to be returned, that's why we were getting that problem of math is not in sync with interface. So now what we have done is we have created two separate classes for UK visa info, which has a method info, and US visa info, which also has a method info, and it just returns the text relevant to the particular country. And we have the main class of visa info, where we are printing just a generic message for now. So what composition is, we should be using other classes objects inside this classes or this class rather than a hard-coded value. So let us do it stepwise so that you understand why this still cannot be a better solution. This one, for example, I will create a new instance of, say, this US visa info.php. So for example, so visa info equals new US visa info, that's it. Then we will call the US visa info has an info method. So within the parent visa info method of visa info, we will run that method, visa info, that's it. And this prints, if we go to the US visa info, this prints or returns basically the US visa info text message. So we will just use print with it. And let us comment this one. Okay, now if I refresh the page, and the file is what is today's day 9.php. So you can see we are calling the main in visa info. If we are initializing it, new visa info, and then calling the visa info method in the main class. This is the main class. but since we have used the US visa here, new, and printed this, so it is giving us a hard-coded message of US visa. If we change the class to UK visa like this, so now it is UK visa. This means this class is still dependent, the main class is dependent upon whichever class is initialized inside it, which is hard-coded. This should not be the case. So what we can do is, to this function visa info, we can pass what?
An object.
We can pass an object of type what? Either use US visa info or UK visa. So maybe we have hundreds of such countries. What we can do is, and this is one of the this is known as we will discuss it later, but this is polymorphism, so that whatever is passed may have more than one forms. So we will make it as an interface, not the class. The type should be interface. So interface is visa info interface, and then some hard-coded some variable visa interface or whatever, or maybe we can call it visa class. Okay, what does this mean? This means this visa info will be passed a class which implements this interface. This is something to note. If we had used US visa info, it means it would only be allowed to pass the US visa class. If we had used just UK, so it means it would have only allowed the UK class. But now, since this is an interface, so it means any such class which implements this interface will be allowed to be passed to this method. Okay, so once that is passed, it means now we don't need to use the new here. We will already have created an instance of that class and will be passing it there. Here we will, this is the visa class, so visa class and info. So whatever is passed to it, its info method will be called here and printed. That's it. And the method is visa info. So now if we go to the, we will get an error now, because argument count error, too few arguments passed to this visa info. So if we go to the day9.php, here visa info, what do we need to pass here?
Object.
The object. So we can directly do so also, new US visa info. That's it. If we pass US visa info, so what will it do? The US visa. If we pass it UK visa, and it is not being included probably, UK visa info is this, UK visa is not here.
It is not included.
DDCDP day9, then visa UK visa info. So error has gone. Now if I refresh the page, it is UK visa. So whichever class, but this new class, what does this new class mean? This is the object actually. So we can assign it to a variable. Yeah, we can assign it to a variable, and then we can pass the variable here, but we can directly do so also. So that's what a composition basically is. Using objects within your classes. So here if we check it, this is being passed, and we are just using whatever is being passed, its info function for printing. So the parent function is visa info. Now you can ask your junior developers to just call this function and pass some class to it, language class, visa class. So if I, now my question to you is, if I need to have Saudi visa info output it, for example, what should I do?
Create another file and then create another class and pass an object.
Exactly. So we will just create new class here. Let us quickly do it. KSA visa info, and we are not going to change the parent class anymore. That's why it is now in single directory principle. That class is not needed to be changed. But here, unless there is some related content or extra functionality to it which is related to it, but then we may change it, but right now it doesn't need to be changed. So the namespace should be Drupal DDCDP23 D9, then visa, that's it. And here the class name should be KSA visa info, and it must implement what? Implements visa info interface. And that as soon as we add this, we are shown an error, and this is because of the public function info, and it should be string. The return should be string. Okay, here we will use return. This is KSA visa info, or somebody wrote this class for you, for example. Okay, so now the junior developer doesn't know how this class was written or whatever. What is this?
Make the K capital too small.
Which
According
one?
to the file name. KSA visa info.
Okay, yes, you are right. Thank you. Okay, so somebody wrote this class for the junior dev, and what he will do, he doesn't need even this info, how it has been implemented. He will just call this. He will just change it to KSA visa info, and now it needs to be implemented in the use statement, like this, and this is KSA visa info. If I refresh the page, we haven't changed the parent class at all, and the output has changed because it now depends upon the other class we have written. So you will see a lot of such code in major frameworks like Laravel, Symfony, Drupal. The next thing is, and I have been saying we don't need to output to change the visa info class. Okay, but because this is related information and we can change it right now, if I just, for instance, create a new function here, public function bold visa info. Okay, bold visa info, and it also returns string or maybe just nothing, and it is also passed this visa class like this. Okay, and it will print the same thing, this, but surrounded by strong tag, strong dot, and then strong again. Strong is for bold tag, right? And here we will use the info, just the same information but strong, meaning bold. So now if I need to run this, this is not yet bold, but in this line.
Day 9.
Which one?
Day
Okay,
9.
day 9. Here I will copy this and paste this again, and this will be bold visa info. Is this okay? And now if I refresh the page, the same stuff, but this one is now bold. Okay, so do you see any problem with this at the moment,
No, sir.
Wasim? Okay, one improvement we can bring, if I make it, because these are now two separate objects of the same class, separate objects, they are not equal, so both have different memories in program. This is $, lang visa, or maybe visa class equals this. Okay, and this is now visa class, like this. Similarly, the same visa class they here. So this is now the same class, same object, sorry. So it's the same. At least we have initialized it once here. Okay, but we can need this info again and again, and we can, I mean, there can be errors outside the class initializing it. So what we can do is, we can further improve this function, this class, sorry, visa info class, this one. We are passing this to each method here. We are passing the same object to this methods here, right? What we can do is, we can create a constructor, public function __ construct, and it will be passed this class, this object, sorry. This is the interface which implements it. Okay, and here we will create a public, and we will call it visa $ visa class, public visa class. Okay, this is just a method, sorry, property, visa class, and this constructor will be passed a visa class object. So here what we can do is, this, sorry, this dot visa class equals $ visa class. We can make it private also, so that it is not accessed from outside, right? Okay, so whatever is passed as in the constructor, it will be made available as a private property here. And now this is my question to you: how can I type hint it? I want this to be of type this. How can I type hint it?
String.
This variable private visa class should be of type this object, with whichever is being passed to it. So it will be visa interface. This property is, this is not normal property. This will be the object of this interface, whichever interface it implements. Okay, its class. So now we don't need to use this in these methods. Okay, and since whatever is the constructor is passed, or to the constructor is passed, it is assigned to this variable, so we can use this dot $, this dot visa info, and it has a method of call. Now this is an object. Similarly, here we will use this visa class info strong. That's it. So let me repeat, this dot visa class is now an object and it has its own method. That's why double arrows. So you will see a lot of such stuff. Many if you see many arrows, means there are properties which are objects themselves. Okay, so what code do we need to change in the day9.php? What should we do now? Once we are initializing the visa info class, visa class, this one,
Just pass the object.
we will just pass the object. So let us do it here. We will comment this code. Okay, so we will make it visa class equals new, the parent class, okay, visa info, and it should be passed even it is showing you this. Okay, so new, for example, if I have to pass the case A visa info, this, that's it. Now this visa class has a method which is get visa info or something. So visa info, yes, simple. So now this is the case A visa info. Similarly, if we pass it UK, is it kept? Notice this thing, this is not changing, just the name of the class. That's okay. So within the class, the main class, this, wherever I need to use the info method, what should I do now? No, nothing else, just I will, this is an object, this one, so I will just call this visa class info, this visa class info, this visa class info. Got it? So this is known as dependency injection. If you are dependent upon this class, so what you do is you just pass it to the class and assign it to a variable here, either in the constructor or somewhere else, and then whenever you need to call it, you just use this dot this, whatever this variable is, and this variable itself is an object, so you can then access all the methods of that object. This is known as dependency injection, and it can have many different forms and styles, but at its core, this is what dependency injection is. So quickly, just if I need to repeat something, let me just revise something today, that is if you remember the percentage class. Okay, so for example, for some reasons in this visa info class we need to use the percentage class for some reasons. I am going against that single responsibility principle, but just to let you know how can we implement dependency injection further. For example, for some reasons we need the percentage class here, so what can we do? We can use in any of the functions. For example, in the visa info, I can calculate percentage here. Maybe if the student requires, the visa information requires the percentage of the student, for example, just an example. So what we can do, we can use student marks equals 400, total marks equals 850. So what should be the percentage? For example, we want to calculate the percentage and use it with the, concatenate it with the message we are getting. Okay, so what can we do is, how can we use the percentage class now? If you go to a percentager, so here we need to create a new class, or maybe remove the final from it now, so that we can, no, okay, we can do it. So new percentager, and then we will call the calculate percentage and pass these values, right? So we can do this here. It is percentager equals new percentager, sorry, not this, new percentager this, and it will be passed what? These two values, student marks and total marks.
These values will be passed when calling the methods. While calling the method.
Oh yes, thank you. Okay, so first we have initialized this, then percentager, sorry, calculate percentage, and here we will be passing those student marks and comma total marks. So whatever is the output, we will save it in a variable. Maybe we will call it percentage equals this, and here at the end of the info we will concatenate this, then some space, maybe your percentage is, and space, and then this percentage, that's it. Calculate percentage, what this function. Okay, so if I refresh the page, if there is no error, we are getting the percentage. I am not sure why is it at the start. Your percentage is percentage, but you got the point. Okay, so if I need the same percentage here in this function, now the bold one, what I will do, I will redo all this stuff again. Do you agree?
Yes.
And similarly, if I need percentage somewhere else also, I will again in some another method of this class, I will again use the new keyword and
Yes,
so this is redundancy. This is what this whole class is dependent upon, the percentager class. So this is not the way we will do it. What we will do, we will pass this the constructor an instance. The second parameter should be percentager this and percentager or whatever, right? Now we will create similarly here a private property of which type? Percentager, and we will call it $percentager. This has been injected. Now you can say injection. This is known as dependency injection. Okay, that class has been injected via the constructor and assigned to this private variable percentager. Now we will not use the new again and again. Okay, what we will do, we will simply this dot, because now it is available on the class as a variable, a method actually, sorry, a variable, yes, and this variable itself is now that class, so we can call those methods again. Percentage is this, and similarly if I have to use it here, now what should I do? Simple this $sign this and percentager, that's it, and then it can have its own methods. Calculate percentage, so you can see the double arrows. Got it? This is dependency injection. Rather than creating the new classes within the methods in the class, you pass it to the class as a dependency and assign it to a variable inside it. So if I come to day9.php now, so what should be the change I have to make? The second one is just new percentager, that's it. So now this is passed to the class and assigned to that variable, and then we can use that variable everywhere. Got it? Okay, so what's next now? We have covered these things. Now the entity class is to be used by PTO. So for example, here in day 9 we create we already have a database connection .php. We can change this class a bit to use PDO, which we have been using. So again we will create one more property here. This is the connection class used for database connectivity. Okay, you already know what the PDO is. So private property PDO, and this is going to be PDO. So what does this mean? Now you should know this is the PDO object and it is of type this. But if I have to remove the slash from here, what can we do? Use PDO, because this is PHP's native class PDO. So now we can use the PDO directly like this. Right? So we will create another we will create a constructor, and it is private because we don't need to access it from outside. So construct, and it will have, here we need to define DSN. I will need your help with the DSN. So it is MySQL host equals, so it is we can define all those private string, and it is $host equals what? In DDEF you have DB as host, right? Private string DB name equals DB, and charset or charset private string $charset equals UTF-8MB4. That's fine. Okay, what else we need?
Port number, MySQL port.
That is, I mean, default will work. So my SQL host is this.
Username and passwords.
So here in the DSN we need $this host, because we have defined it here. Okay, host, then DB name equals DB name equals brackets, and then $this DB name, and then character set. Yes, port is optional, but default is 3306, so probably it will be taking it. We don't need. Okay, and then the car set equals brackets and $this car set. Hope this will work, and then semicolon like this. Okay, DSN, MySQL, and this. Now what should we do? For example, let us quickly create a database. Detail describe. If I have PHP myadmin installed here, yes it is. So let me go there. In the DB database, we'll create quickly a table, maybe just for categories for now. Okay, categories, and it should have 3 columns or 2 columns, ID and name. So 2 columns is fine. The first one is CID int 11, and it should be auto increment, and the second one is CNAME. It should be varchar and 255. Save. Okay, so let me just quickly add 3 or 4 values in it. Sports, then entertainment, and then what else? Education. That's all. Okay, so here let me fetch all the records. Okay, and we can even assign a private array options, so we'll call it options. This is an array, okay, which is empty for now, and it should have, rather not empty, we will have the PDO options, PDO error mode, sorry, error mode, so this should be exception, what's that called, PDO. This is confusing, but ATR underscore exception, error mode exception, and then PDO default fetch mode, and this should be fetch underscore PDO fetch a source. So you can pass all the options here rather than doing it in the query itself. So now the second one is, we will create a new PDO object equals new PDO. So we are already using the PDO here. So first it is pass the DSN, then the username and password, right? The username is also DB in DDEF, and password also is DB, and the last option is this options array. Okay, so how can we access it here? Come on, this options, right? So now the connectivity has been made. Now if we, for example, want to use this PDO object somewhere, what we can do, we already have created this PDO here, private PDO object. Rather than assigning it here as a local variable, we can use this PDO. Got it? So when the connection is made, this PDO will be populated. Okay, and if you remember, we were using the Singleton for this connection, right? You will now know the advantage of it. So if I run the same code here in the db day9.php, let me just comment out all the older stuff. If you remember, we created the connection, and how to use it, it is get instance, a static property on this class connection, this connection.
Yes, sir.
So we will just use $con equals what? Connection class and static get instance. That's it. So can you tell me what has happened now? What this get instance will do? It has created an instance of this connection for us. So this, what will this con now have? Yeah, it has connection, but it has a property of PDO now, which is the something, the property we need to connect to the database. So now it will have what? Query, or so select all from what? Categories. That's it. Number has private variable is not Okay, sorry. So this is private visibility, and it is a good thing we forgot that the PDO. So if I go to the connection, how to access the private properties? We will create another function, get connection, public function get connection. Exactly. So get connection, and what should it return? This is your code. It should return PDO object. Okay. And what we will do here, return this dot PDO. That's it. Now instead of using the connection directly here, what we will do, get connection. That's it. So get connection will return the PDO object, and then this is PDO now. So we will now we can now run query here. And what's the next step after query? This is going to be a statement, right? Or something like this. Now we can loop over it for each $sign as $sign record. So what we can do is print what $sign, or maybe just if you want to record the names, right? Record CNAME. Is this fine? Now
Statement spelling, sir. For each loop, E. Remove the E.
state
STMTE.
ओके, यहाँ पे ऐड कर लेते हैं. So again I have lost the and the name of the file is day. Okay, you uncode this base table of view not found categories. What's the name of the table? Okay, this is capital C. So sports, entertainment and education, we are not using any BRs or whatever, so that's why it all is in one line. This is what we have been doing so far, but now we need to enhance our workflow, and what we can do is we will create inside the day9 folder, we will create another folder and we will call it entity. The folder will be called entity, and inside it we will create a new file and we will call it category.php, and this is going to be a new class, and the namespace should be Drupal DDCDP23 -day9 entity. Entity is something, this is known as mapping, or you can call it, you will learn entities in Drupal also, but let us start today from this. So we will call the class category. Remember, this is just PHP classes, and we will make a private or maybe public for now, public int, and it is $CID. exactly, it should be named exactly like the column name in the database. Then public string, and what is that? Name, CNAME. Okay, so this is 2. Now even if we make it private, so we need to have getter and setter methods for them. So quickly let us create the setter or getter. For now just the getters. Okay, so public function, what it is, get CID, like this. So what this will return? $, this CID. Similarly, another function for get public function get CName, and it should return what? String. It should return $, CName, like this. Okay. Okay, so this class has the name of the class is category. It is placed inside the folder entity. Its namespace is Drupal this D9 entity, and it has, if a table has say 10 properties, columns. So how many properties you should have here? 10. Maybe name, father name, whatever. So these properties should be in correspondence with the name of the table names in the database. Then we are getting get CID and get name, CName, right? The next thing is we will change the query we have done here. Or maybe if we use just the prepare statement, and what else we need after the prepare? Execute, right? And then so statement execute. Here we need to pass values, but for now we will leave it as this. Where normally we do use. Okay. The next is how to specify fetch a source here. So statement fetch all. Okay, in fetch all we by default we already have passed it as options. We don't need it, but for now I have to change it. So statement fetch all, and we will do PDO colon class. Where is class? Fetch class. PDO colon fetch class, and the second argument should be the namespace and the name of the class. So where is the namespace? This is entity category. So it is Drupal slash DDCDP23 slash what? Day 9. Then entity, and then there is these two columns and class. That's all. So what essentially we are saying to this, that fetch all the records but as a class, as the objects of this class. Okay, and we will assign it to records array, like this. What is this saying? Entity, what's the name? Okay, entity and then category, sorry. Like this. Okay, so the name of this class. Now if now the dump function of Symfony, right? So rather than outputting this statement, maybe this is now records, rather than outputting this as we'll just print, or maybe dump now record, dump $record. So what are you expecting? Hurry up. This individual record will be an object of this class. Every row returned will be an object of this class. So if I refresh the page, if things are fine, so you can see this actually means the object or the class name of which this is object. So now these are three records. You can see the private property, the dash means private property, CID1 CNAME, CID1 CNAME, CID1 CNAME. So each row now is what? I just want to hear this from you. Each row now is an object of class category. Each row now is an object of class category. So what advantage it has now? So for example, if I just need to output the name of it, okay, so what I will do, the record now is what? An object of which class? The category. So it has, for example, if I need to output the name, so what I will do? CNAME. That's it. This, and maybe if I output there's one PHP new line, what it is, this is a constant. We can use it also like BR, maybe it works, probably it doesn't work in PHP or undefined category. CNAME, it shows call to undefined method CNAME. What's the name of that method? Okay, get CNAME, sorry. So in the code here, what we will use? Get CNAME. And we are getting it but not printing it. So, and in fact in this works in command line. So what if we just output BR here? So this is the same thing. Actually we are building some strong foundation for our subsequent class. So for today in part 3 we will be building on that, this entity concept further. But for now, so the advantage here is, for example, I had a table for percentages or whatever. So in your entity classes you can create those methods. For example, for some reason I need the double or maybe the 4 times multiplication of the ID. So function multiply by 4. For example, this is the name of the method. Okay, public function. I want to multiply the ID by 4 and display it. Okay, for example, so all of your code is inside this category function. This is your CID. So what I will do, return $sign this CID, or maybe we already are using this get CID also, so we can use both, but maybe this CID is fine because we can access it from the this class, and 4 multiply by 4. That's it. Okay, so in your DB9 code, this D9 code, sorry, if for example I have to just output the ID is multiplied by 4, so rather than doing any logic here, what you can do is you can just refer to your class and that function, what was that, multiply by 4. That's it, simple. So what are you expecting? We have 3 records now. What should be there? 4, 8 and 12.
Use small brackets
For
multiply by 4. It's a method.
Yeah, thank you. So we are getting these values. I am not sure why I am getting it in different order. View source. 4 8 12. Okay, this is a BR, so it's all fine. Okay, so what this method has done, it is just multiplying it by, so your entity classes can have a lot of magic and power. Okay, via this anything you can think of can be inside this. And if an entity class extends a powerful entity class, which Drupal does and similarly other frameworks, then you can have even further power into your queries. So that's all for today, and see you next time in part 3 of OOP. Thank you so much.